There's going to be two types of companies in this country, in the world. Those who are great at AI and everybody else.
Will you run for president?
I mean, it's easy to say yes right now, but...
Welcome to the stream, Mark. How are you doing?
Good, guys. How y'all?
We're
What's
doing
happening?
Great. Thanks so much for taking the time. Good to meet you. Where should we kick it off, Jordy?
Where should we start?
Should we dive straight into the debate over artificial intelligence and advertising?
Sure.
Maybe you could set the stage for us. What set off your alarm bells? What triggered your initial worry about this idea of ads in LLMs?
Because this isn't the internet, right? It's not just a normal digital platform. Yep. It's a platform that, depending on how it's trained, depending on what pre-prompts you put in, it could be very manipulative. Mm-hmm. And there's not really age limitations at all. There's not really any limitations whatsoever. And normally let's just be laissez-faire, right? The market is the market. But you've already heard, of stories of kids going down these rabbit holes and, other people being told, to kill themselves. And mm-hmm. you just don't know what can happen. So if I build a model and it becomes popular, even if it's only a niche model, right? Mm-hmm. Just like there's Headspace and there's Calm. Let's just say I build the Calm AI large language model and I have millions and millions of users and I have an advertiser who sells Xanax or sells, whatever, right? Yeah. And they're trying to get more sales and I need the money. Mm-hmm. I can easily train this thing to manipulate people into doing things we typically would not allow people to do. And that's my concern. And so if we just want to put up, just little traditional graphics, JPEG ads, all, put them into the chat list on the left-hand side. Great. You can do all the display ads you want. Yep. You could do video there, all you want. But if it's in the response that comes back from the model, boy, you're going to have lots of problems.
Yeah, I think Sam Altman said something to this effect, saying that artificial intelligence will be superhuman at persuasion before it is truly super intelligent. It will be very good at convincing people. So it is reasonable. What do you think of Sam Altman's latest commentary on how OpenAI might get into this world, that the actual LLM interaction, the chat would not be monetizable, but if it made a recommendation to buy a product and then you said, "Hey, I want you to go check out for me," it sends out.
It's already doing
agent,
that, right?
And
Yeah,
it's already the referral fee. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's already doing it. It's one thing to have the model itself convey and try to manipulate. Yep. It's a whole nother thing when there's a search query.
Yeah.
Right. So we get a lot of traffic from OpenAI, ChatGPT for costplusdrugs.com.
Yep.
In fact, I've used it because sometimes if I want a price for one of our drugs and I don't want to take the time to look at the latest price list, I'll just put in what's the price for, Daraprim, whatever it may be. And it's right there. Yep. And so, of course they can extend that, but response is a whole, and models are smart enough to know what the difference between a response to a query versus influencing and engaging in a chat.
I guess the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think to double down on what you're saying, an example, if you're going from search, which is people coming in with a specific intent and maybe doing some product research, and you have ads and you have, organic listings or web pages, that's one thing. But if various AI models are seen as trusted advisors, if you compare that to a situation, if I ask John, what kind of car should I get? And John starts giving me answers and saying, I really think you should get this car. It's really nice. And then I buy it. And then later I find out John was getting a 10% kickback. Yep. I'm like, hopefully I like the car, but if I didn't, what are you doing? And this happens in a business context too. You might, people get in hot water all the time because they're taking really referral.
Easy. Yeah. In this particular case, it's really easy. Just like, there's, a emoji for sources or just says sources. Yep. You could put a $ just to show they're being compensated.
Sure. And do you think that needs to happen at like the FTC, FCC level, or do you think that needs to be
I don't know the legal aspect of it enough. Hopefully it's self-enforced, but
Yeah.
there's going to be idiots and assholes who don't self-enforce.
Sure.
And particularly for medical stuff. I mean,
Does
it's
that-
easier
yeah.
to talk to ChatGPT about your own personal medical situation than it is to find a doctor to talk to sometimes.
But
So
does
you're
that
gonna see
calm
all
example you gave matter? Because I imagine that there'll be a power law outcome here, and yes, I could set up a search engine that serves ads and doesn't disclose that they're ads. But how am I going to take market share from Google? People are going to go to Google, and Google does say when it's an ad, and so as long as the power law winner is a good actor, we kind of get the good outcome.
There's also an interesting thing where there's this
Yeah.
self-enforcing sort of positive effect, which is if people rely on ChatGPT, for example, to help them do product research and buy the right products, and you buy a bunch of bad products in a row because they're just pushing the product that they're getting paid the most, eventually I do think that consumers are smart enough to realize, I'm not going to use this app anymore.
I wouldn't agree with that, Jordy, because I think people are primed for misinformation these days. You see it in healthcare continuously. You saw it with COVID vaccines. People on their deathbed saying, I wish I had taken the vaccine, and you see it now with, raw milk, where now there's more people who have, there's examples of people who have died. And people just don't care. They just go on and maybe they'll say, ChatGPT is woke, so I'm using RightGPT. And that's because those are the kinds of answers I want. Because, there are people who want to be influenced and want to be part of a group when it comes to the product decisions. Just like we saw the anti-Bud Light and that kind of builds, and you see, pro right-wing products. I just don't know that it is an efficient market enough where people are going to take responsibility for just making a bad product choice and then going to another source. There's just so much personal identity in how we use technology. That's part of my concern.
How worried would you say you are about AI broadly? I think over the last few months, the industry has woken up to, a year ago, people were kind of laughing about AI safety, right? And thinking about these fast takeoff scenarios. Now I think people are kind of waking up and worried about the general well-being. If you just give hundreds of millions of people, unlimited access to these tools, there is gonna be some effects. Some people will be good, some people will be bad. But what's your high level read?
Well, it's changed a lot. We went from fear of the Terminator to fear of being influenced in ways we didn't expect because they're such good communicators, right? We can't talk to other people, or we feel, shy or not open in communicating with other people, experts or friends or otherwise. But this is our best friend who never gives us a hard time, and depending on how it's programmed, will compliment. What a great question, Jordy. What a great, that is a really interesting approach.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of things to be concerned with there, particularly because AI is not smart. Right? AI is just statistical right now. And I'm of the mindset that that's not going to change for a long time. One of the reasons that you don't see full self-driving cars that are just everybody using no matter what is because it's easy. There's so many adversarial things that can happen to a car. We have mini Australian German Shepherd, or mini Australian Shepherd, right? Tux. And about 6 years old. I trust Tux at an intersection to know when to cross before, that he's never been to before I trust a car. And that's the whole point with AI, because they're just rules and laws and latencies that it can't account for. It's all text, some graphics, some video, but it's always behind. And then that's part one. Part two, I think we're going to see a groundswell in how intellectual property is dealt with, a groundswell change in how IP is dealt with. Because there was, for a long time, it's been publish or perish. Get your stuff out there, get it into journals, make it available so that you can present yourself as being an expert. Well, the minute you do that right now, it's going to get absorbed into, training data for these models, and you've lost everything you've just created.
Well, what if I'm taking the side of big raw milk and I want to get people, and so I should just write as much as I
Yeah,
can
and that's
about
what you're
how
going to
great
do
it is.
too.
Yeah.
People are going to use bots to try to influence, to post things, to try to influence, like the robots.txt for AI, for AI.
Yeah.
You can structure it in ways so you can set up sites where you can tell it exactly where to go, tell it all why raw milk is amazing,
Yeah.
right? But the bigger point is AI doesn't understand death. AI doesn't understand pain. AI doesn't understand context. AI doesn't know what happened 2 minutes ago. It doesn't know that there was a plane crash as it's about to tell you or something happened, right? AI can't tell you why that ball fell off the table unless you tell it, this ball fell off the table, what happened next, right? It's just not smart. And as long as it's not smart, A, it can be influenced, and B, you're just not going to know what it's going to do next because it doesn't have judgment.
So what would you tell the folks at OpenAI and the other foundation model labs on how to structure their business? It feels like a firewall between there needs to be some sort of truth-seeking organization that's focused on delivering the
do that. There's
highest
just no way.
quality results, and then on the flip side, you have a monetization team.
No, I mean, you can't check for quality. That's impossible.
Yeah, of course you can. You can always like benchmark these things or just like vibe test them with the audience.
Jordy was giving me shit online. I was giving Jordy shit online.
Yeah.
Our vibe tests are going to be completely different, right?
What I'm saying is like Google does try and deliver the highest quality search results for a particular query, and then separately they have an ad auction function
So
that adds as an ad platform, and those two teams are separate. And so, like, if your age is showing up as one of those like knowledge boxes on Google, you can't just pay to have them change it. Like, that's a separate business line, and it's a separate team, and they are separate products in the UI. Yes, they exist on the same page, but they're separate.
And that's fine, right?
Okay.
I mean, to me, the bigger questions are what's the value proposition for AI as we understand it today, or at least as I understand it today, right? I don't see AI getting smart. I look at AI and I think it's the world's best library. Let me explain it another way.
Yeah.
We all have that one friend that remembers everything.
Yep.
Everything, right? Hey, what did we do that one day back in college? Remember when, our one buddy, oh yeah, this is da-da-da-da. That's AI. It'll remember everything. It'll give you if you give it A, B, and C, it'll figure out D, E, and F, right? But it doesn't even know X, Y, Z exists, just like your body. So it is just like the world's biggest library. It is just like a meeting of the minds of just regurgitation.
Yep.
And so knowing that, then you have to, there's going to be so much competition between the models. That is the biggest driver right now in terms of revenue generation, right? Because there'll be 5, 6, whatever it is, foundational models before there's consolidation. But beyond that, there's going to be millions of models, millions and millions of models. And every brand is going to need a model, particularly like in healthcare. Like if you are Stanford Medical, right? If you are Mayo Clinic, if you're MD Anderson, you're not going to just, put out all your IP from the doctors and researchers and scientists you're paying so that ChatGPT can absorb it and have the benefit of all that knowledge so it remembers everything that all your doctors and scientists did. You're going to keep that to yourself. And so in terms of the business models, these guys are going to have to start making decisions. Are they going to start paying a lot of money for content? Because as much as they're investing in the technology, they've reached a lot of limits, right? You're not hearing about, wow, these guys are getting to do these new topics that I had no idea that they could cover.
They're paying for a ton of content, to be clear. I mean, they pay Reddit, they pay the New York Times, they pay all sorts of money.
Yeah, we had a group reach out wanting to buy our back catalog.
Yeah.
And I was like, I assumed you already scraped it.
But think of it let's talk about it from the government perspective.
Sure.
So they just cut all these NIH grants, right? All this stuff that presumably went and created new drugs, which they have, right?
Foundational research, basic science.
Right, all this research.
Yep.
If the government really understood AI, they'd be like, okay, we're going to keep on investing in this research. and then I'm going to make it available to the the highest bidder, whoever wants it in their model.
Privatize it. I like that. Make some money off
Right?
of it.
It's not
Part
even
of the
necessarily
deal.
privatizing it,
Yeah.
but monetizing it.
Monetizing it. I like this. This is good. Make some money off of that nonprofit research.
Well,
Are you-
because that's the way things are working right now,
Totally,
right? And
yeah.
I don't have, honestly, I don't have a problem with that
No.
at all
No,
if
makes
it gets
sense.
us more solutions. But or doing our own, the
Yeah.
government doing its own model and making that available for a fee.
Yeah.
Those are decisions from a business perspective that all these models are going to have to make. Otherwise, how do they keep on adding more training data? Because there's no way to synthesize all that shit. You're not synthesizing, you're not creating synthetic data that all of a sudden is going to, you could give it all the backstory you want, that you're a doctor, that you invented this, that you did that. It ain't going to invent what the doctor and the scientists are going to invent.
Yeah.
At any point during the AI hype cycle so far, did you think that this time might be different? There was, I would say, a year ago, a common line was, this isn't like the internet bubble because there's real revenue. These companies are ramping revenue to hundreds or billions of dollars of revenue very quickly. This is different. This time is different. Meanwhile, and I wouldn't lean on this too heavily, but MIT had a report this week saying that 95% of Gen AI pilots in the enterprise are not turning into, not creating real value. I'm curious what your read has been.
I've been through every single technology, event and evolution, and this blows them all away. Now, how you implement it in business is a whole different issue. Like literally when I was 24, I was walking into companies who had never seen a PC before in their lives and explaining to them the value, and having these guys going, well, son, I got this receptionist right there. I got that secretary. I'm never going to need that shit ever. Right. But then, my business then was helping them figure out how to implement it to give them an advantage.
Yep.
There are going to be integrators that, particularly young kids, like when I'm telling my kids who are 15, 18, 21 or 19, 21, and kids going to school, what should I do? What should I do? I'd be like,
AI research.
Learn all you can about AI, but learn more on how to implement them in companies, right? Because to your point, companies don't understand how to implement all that right now to get a competitive advantage. You got the head of Microsoft saying software is dead because everything's going to be customized to your unique utilization, right, or usage. Who's going to do it for them? Particularly small to medium-sized businesses. There are 33 million companies in this country. 30 million of them are solopreneurs, right? Single-person enterprises. There are only, there are millions of companies that have 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, 500 people that aren't going to have AI budgets, aren't going to have AI experts. This is where kids getting hired coming out of college are really going to have a unique opportunity. If you're spending your senior year in college right now, your senior year in high school, even whatever it is, your excess time, and you're learning the difference between Sora and Veo, and you're learning how to do all this video, you're learning how to customize a model so that then you can then walk into a company and say, I understand your business as a shoe company selling shoes at a retail store. We're selling shoes online. Let me show you how to benefit you.
Yeah.
That is every single job that's going to be available for kids coming out of school, because every single company needs that. There is nothing intuitive for a company to integrate AI. And that's what people don't understand.
Yeah,
when
we
they talk
hired
about,
we hired two interns this summer at the end of the last school year because they just built products
stuff.
instead of saying, "Hey, here's what I can do." They just showed us. They took a day and just built something. We said,
and then it take
"That
a
looks pretty
day,
good."
right? They went to ChatGPT or Perplexity.
Yeah. Well, the bear
So-
case, John was joking about this, though. I thought this was interesting. We had one of our interns built this product. It's tbpn.com/guest. It's this guest directory transcript tool. And he built it in a day, but then he had to spend the whole summer improving it. So that was a bull case for software engineers still having a job.
But
You don't even have to be a software engineer, right?
Yeah.
You just have, people are afraid to ask the models the right questions. They're afraid to ask complex questions because they just presume that they can't answer. Kids coming out of school today that are fearless in the questions they ask and the follow-ups and their ability to prompt, they have more skill than everybody in every major corporation with under 1,000 employees, right?
So I completely agree
That's
with this.
jobs for everybody.
But this feels like it feels like you're making the argument for putting ads in AI and keeping it free so that kids can have access to frontier models and then go and explore, learn, implement things at businesses. If all of a sudden you can't get in the game, you can't even interact with a cutting edge AI
Well,
model
Mark's
for
saying he's
$200.
cool with display ads. He's cool with a Labubu showing up in the sidebar.
Yeah, on the
Okay.
side, right, chat. That's fine. But think of it. Okay. There's a death war going on with the frontier models.
Yes.
War.
Yeah.
It's zero-sum game in their minds. Not all will make it. Some will get consolidated. Maybe one goes out of business.
Yeah.
Right. And so for the next however many years, however long, there used to be a time when Excel cost $499 right, to buy a spreadsheet. Now
Worth
it's
every
free. It's not free, but like
Basically.
Google Sheets, right?
Yeah,
Google Docs, etc. The basic models are always going to be free.
Because
They
of
have-
ads. Like the reason Google Sheets is free is because of Google's ads business.
When was the last time you
right-
saw
right
that
now-
in Google Sheets?
No, you don't. But the reason that they can subsidize it is because they have this amazing ads business over here that throws off so much cash they don't care about
No.
monetizing it.
Yeah, but in the
No.
case, I mean, to take Mark's side
Please.
here, I mean, a subscription product also subsidizes a free product.
Sure.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay.
So you're going to have tiers, right?
Yeah.
Free, your kids version, free, and those versions are going to have more constraints because they know high school kids,
Yeah.
7-year-old kids are going to use them.
Yeah.
So there'll be all kinds of limits built in.
Yeah.
But then you get your $20 version, and ChatGPT is doing what, $12 billion annualized and growing quickly.
Yep.
That's insane. Lovable. All these guys are just crushing it. And like I was the first investor in a company called Synthesia, which does talking avatars. I don't know if you know
Oh,
those
yeah,
guys.
yeah, cool. Love
Yeah,
it.
they're killing it.
That's great.
Killing it. It's just up and to the right.
Yep.
You start them off with, it's just a whole freemium model,
Sure.
right? That's been around forever. And I think that's going to happen. But as we talked earlier about buying IP, you'll see things go into different directions. So you'll have a ChatGPT/healthcare. And if you want that, it's an extra $5 a month. You'll see ChatGPT programming or math or foreign language, Duolingo version, right? And it might be an extra 50 cents a month or $1 a month, whatever it may be. And then there'll be, entrepreneur version, and it'll have all the integrations into all the states so that you just, fill in these forms and you're incorporated wherever you want to be incorporated because all the agents will do all the work. All that stuff you can upsell.
Yeah.
And so, but if they're not using your model in high school, they ain't going to use it in college. And if they ain't using it in college, when they go to that company, they're not going to use you.
Yep.
And I think that is a big deal. But I can't say it enough. All these people, we're in a transition period right now for kids coming out of college, whether you have a computer science degree or not. But you're not trying to go to the big companies to get a computer science degree, probably not the right way to go. Going to any other company who has no idea about AI but needs it in order to compete, there'll be more jobs than people for a long, long time. Because there's going to be two types of companies in this country, in the world. Those who are great at AI and everybody else. And AI is not intuitive. You're not going to take a 40-year-old who's worked at a company for 15 years and say, go play with ChatGPT and figure out how we can improve our productivity and improve our processes. Some people will put in the time to learn it, but it's not intuitive to pull all those pieces together and extend them with agents and have the agents start doing things. And then, writing software on Lovable or whatever and having it's going to be intuitive for digital natives and Gen Z who are going through school and graduating with that. That is going to be jobs left and right.
For sure. I
Totally agree. Wanted to get we were just on with Vlad from Robinhood, and
Yep, that's my guy. Yep.
He's super excited about getting everyday investors access to great private markets great companies in the private markets. I wanted to get your general read on that. You've obviously been part of Shark Tank for a long time.
Can you imagine if you were watching and you could be like, I want to invest? That seems extremely logical.
Yeah, and a lot of people have taken cracks.
I'm sure
at this
people have
from
pitched you
different
this exact
ways.
thing.
But
Yeah,
I'm
of
curious
course.
because you obviously
Yeah.
I can see you being it's great when if retail can get into the next Figma, but there's
There's
not
not a lot of
making
that.
a
It's
lot of
even
Figmas.
worse, right? I've been anti, not sweat equity, crowdfunding, right? Crowd equity programs, against it because there's no liquidity. People love a company, the next Figma, and they put in their life savings because they know Figma is going to the moon, baby, and they can't get out,
Yeah.
and they got to wait. That's the problem.
Yep.
And so that's part one to the problem. Part two, and more of a systemic problem, there's just not enough IPOs. I mean, it's like watching some of these IPOs, they're like meme coins now. Bam, they take off, and then it's musical chairs to see who can get out the last but first, right?
Yep.
And if you don't get out first or near the beginning, you're getting crushed, And so is there a way, whether it's tokenization or other approaches to that? Probably, but it's going to have to go back to the future where somebody is going to have to take some risk and be a market maker.
Yeah.
If Vlad or whoever is a market maker, so that there's always some liquidity within X percentage of the last trade, great. Then everybody can do it and everybody's protected to a certain extent, as long as they're not doing deals where the people are just out and out lying, right, or misrepresenting it. At which point, hopefully the CFTC or the SEC, whoever happens to end up in charge.
It's not enough just to bring access. You also have to bring liquidity.
Yeah.
Last question. If Donald Trump runs for a third term, will you run for president?
I mean, it's easy to say yes right now, but that's probably the only thing that could make me really reconsider. Because otherwise, I don't want to do that shit. It's not my dream to be president. I'd rather argue with you guys about this.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
and
my
Rip
dream when you
Jack.
come back on the show. You'll be too busy if you're in the White House.
Last question from me. Are you excited about the American taxpayer potentially taking a position in Intel?
Oh, interesting.
You know what? It's a great question, Jordy. So
You're sounding like an AI. You're sounding like an AI.
Yeah, you sound like
right?
an AI. You know what? That's
It's
a
a
great
great
question.
question.
What you don't know is I have ChatGPT listening. and
Yeah. He's running Cluely. He's running Cluely.
It is a progressive's dream. This is the Bernie Sanders dream, the AOC dream. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but if you think about it, it's asking for equity and taking value from the billionaires before it even makes them billionaires or goes to the billionaires. So when you take 10% of Intel, and first let me add, the fact that it's a grant that they're converting, I think is awful, because it was meant to be a grant, and that was the deal the United States of America made. And now we're going back on the paper that we signed as a country. I think that's bad. But generally, if this was, okay, we'll put in more money in order to take, and we want 10% of Intel, obviously they can say yes or no, just like NVIDIA and AMD had the option to say yes or no on the H20 chips, just like Material, whatever MP, had the option
Materials.
to give up,
But
give up
politicians have gotten so good at trading stocks. Maybe we want
Why
them.
not
Maybe
let
we
them?
want them running our federal balance sheet.
No, you don't.
No, I'm
but
kidding,
At
I'm
the
kidding.
same time, yeah, but if you're going to generate, if I was running, right, and I would say Donald Trump did the same thing. He got this one right. Now the only question is, will he do it at the right time? Because I'd rather take more money from taxpayers, the average person who might need to pay more, or even the billionaires, the oligarchs, according to Bernie, would I jack up their tax rates to 37 to 39 or 41? Or can I just take it this way, right? Take it before it even gets to them. It's a progressive's dream. I don't understand why AOC and Bernie aren't shouting to the rooftops and Elizabeth Warren, yes, 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 and make Donald Trump's head spin around in circles along with every other supporter, because those guys
if they got excited about it, he might reverse course.
Well, of course,
That's
right?
why they're being quiet, because they don't want
Yeah.
him to reverse course. This is 4D chess.
Maybe you're
4D
ahead
chess,
of
chess
they're
on
using
both
the
sides of
4D.
the aisle. Everyone's playing chess.
I mean, but don't you guys agree? Isn't it just like a progressive dream?
Yeah.
Like, and so tariffs, which is just like the greatest sales pitch in the history of sales pitches, when you can convince 30+% of people in this country that that tax that they're paying with increased prices isn't a tax, somebody else is paying it. Amazing sales job, right? So now that's $360 billion towards the deficit and everything. And if you can start doing these other deals that aren't piggish, right? Meaning they're fair to the companies that are involved and they're not across the board like tariffs, and start banging down on the deficit in the way that is the ultimate progressive approach. He's turned into Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
He literally has, only he's a better salesperson.
You're great at this. This is
I mean,
fantastic.
I give him credit though. I'm not knocking him, right?
is
I
good.
am
This
giving
is good
Donald
to-
Trump all his flowers
you go.
because he is doing things in a way that the Democrats aren't smart enough to figure out to have done themselves.
Yep. This is great.
Well,
thank you so
thank
much
you so
for
much
stopping
for joining.
by.
We'll have to do this again soon.
Yeah, we got to do this again soon. We got to find a new topic to argue about, but this was fantastic.
Healthcare. Let's go healthcare. Wait till you hear my shit with healthcare.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it tomorrow.
Healthcare debate soon. Well, we'll email you. I'll see you soon. Have a
got
great
it,
one.
guys.
Thank you so much for joining.
Later.
Appreciate it.
We'll talk
Take
to you
care.
soon.